I am at my motorcycle shop, and we open at 6, so I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully there's no interruptions. Yeah, if there is, I'll mute. Okay. Roll call.
Yeah, we're going to call the meeting to order for July 7th, 2020. Chair Grotenhouse. Chair.
Here.
Commissioner Stevens.
There.
Okay. Commissioner Parker.
Here.
Commissioner Kimball.
Here.
Commissioner Pierce, not present. Oh, Dan is here. Okay. Commissioner Falciola. Commissioner Conley. Commissioner Richey.
Here.
Okay, and Commissioner Daig did say that she would likely not be here this evening. I forgot about Commissioner Daig. So we have a quorum.
I think that he would be on, but he's going to be a little late.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
I wish I could.
I think Dan did.
Dan, okay. And do you want to ask for just a yay or nay vote for that?
Oh, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Do we have any changes to the meeting minutes from last month? Any corrections? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from last month?
So moved.
I'll make that. Oh, okay. I'll second it.
Okay.
All right.
So first for
Ready for a presentation?
Commissioner Kimball. Second for Commissioner Parker.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I'm echoing weird, I think, but I think with that, it's ready for the presentation, right, Wendy?
Yes. So just
Okay.
a brief overview. We are in the process of conducting a survey for the Fairmount area that was to include a portion of the commercial area. This was originally intended to be a 3-phase project, and ideally down the road when things get a little more balanced again with our budget, we will go ahead and move forward with phase 2 and phase 3. This is being funded via a historic preservation fund grant. Because we are a certified local government, we have a small pot of funding that's dedicated for our use for these types of projects. And so we were super pleased to get this started. This is a goal, as noted in our preservation master plan that was adopted this last year. So it was great to get 2020 off on a roll with one of our goals being met. So Sid is here to represent HR, who is working on the survey and has been out in the field collecting the data. We will have the final draft of it due soon. And once we get that all compiled, we'll go ahead and upload that along with our previous surveys. But in the meantime, she's just here to give a little overview about how the work's been going, any kind of challenges in the field. And then if you have questions, we'll open it up.
All right. My name is Sid Millstein. I'm an architectural historian, and I've been in business since 1983. So I've been around the block a few times. And I was pleased to, get under contract with the City of Independence for this job for the Fairmont neighborhood. And the first thing that we prepared, and Allison, was kind to guide us through a few things, and then ultimately approve the objectives, the research design for this project, And without going into, you know, the details of the research design, essentially, as an overview, it outlined the survey objectives, the geographical location, and then gave the methodology that we were using in order to compile archival research for this particular project. And there was also, as you can imagine, with over 400, I think there were about 404 resources that we looked at in this area. There was a lot of field work to do. The field work entailed, and I say entailed because it's essentially completed. The field work entailed literally looking at the properties that were involved, that are included in this Fairmont neighborhood, and then photographing at least 2 photographs of every residence and commercial building. So we turned the research design in the end of February, right before COVID hit the fan, as they say. And we're in constant contact with Allison at the State Historic Preservation Office, and the research design was approved. And while Allison was taking a look at what we provided for this research design, we went out in the field, and I have teamed with WSP out of Kansas City, and one of their staff people and one of my staff people went out in the field and completed the survey for 404 properties. And the 404, again, included the lion's shares is their residences, and then there's a strip of commercial properties along Independence, and also a trail. So we have a site and commercial properties, just a handful, a religious property complex with St. Anne's, and then the residences. And so the actual survey forms, and every resource has an individual. You're probably all familiar with this because you have certain, I don't know how many surveys that you've completed, Wendy, since you've been with the City of Independence, but there are several. So I'm sure you're familiar with the State Historic Preservation Office survey form. But having said that, each property has an actual survey form that outlines the physical description, history of known, there's mapping, and then a series of photographs. And sometimes this usually comes into the historic context report, which accompanies the actual survey forms, will provide historic photographs of areas within the actual survey area, and more particular to any individual resource within the area that we're surveying. For instance, there's a Queen Anne house that occupies a large parcel. I can't remember the address offhand, but it's Queen Anne, and it's painted blue. You're probably familiar with it. And we found an historic photograph of it. So it really helps not only to, if we have questions about the integrity of a property, we can compare the current photograph with the historic photograph. So we've pretty much completed 404 property forms, resource forms, and Allison has taken a look at that and has been, incredibly helpful with her review. And we're just about ready to hand in the final draft on those forms. We've also, there's one thing on those forms that I didn't mention. We will address whether or not we feel these individual properties on an individual basis are significant and merit National Register listing. So that involves not only, taking a look at its history, but most important for this particular survey, and I'll address that in a second after I tell you what I'm thinking. There are integrity issues for resources within this particular survey area and Independence. And that, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Fairmont survey area. The biggest hurdle that we have had in evaluating the historic significance of these properties has been related to COVID. And fortunately, we got a head start on research before, all the repositories closed. So the local repositories that we rely on, including Mid-Continent and Independence and the Missouri Valley Room at the Kansas City Public Library, and to a lesser degree with this particular survey, we also use the State Historical Society of Missouri, KC, on the UMKC campus. So all of those have been closed, but we did get, prior to everything shutting down, we did get a really good jump start on archival research. And having said that, we've prepared about 50 pages of narrative covering the historical aspects of this particular neighborhood. And it's been very revealing. One of the challenges too is that this is kind of a no man's land. I mean, it wasn't part of the city of Kansas City, and it wasn't part of Independence until about 1960. So a lot of the recordation of this neighborhood, you really have to hunt and peck to find things. But we're well on our way to, I think, Wendy, we told you we'd hand in the historic context draft on Friday, and I think we're good to go on that. And, we'll have all of and Allison, I don't know when you're going to be through, and you may want to talk about that with the actual review of the draft survey forms, but we have incorporated some additional information for those survey forms, and then Wendy will get the whole package on Friday. So that's where we are, and I think the final project, I have the milestones in front of me, is August 31st. So, I feel confident we'll be able to meet that goal, and I really, in my heart of hearts, don't feel that any of the repositories are going to be open by then. I really don't think so. So with that, Allison, do you want to say anything about the actual surveys and maybe where you are in the review?
I had sent my review comments back. Maybe you haven't gotten them, but everything looks really good from what I've seen. I just had a few comments about the forms themselves, but they were mostly technical type of things that are easily repaired. And fundamentally they were outstanding. So I don't really have any comments related to that. And I look forward to reviewing the context that you have developed. I understand that right now is a really challenging time for researchers because of the repositories being closed. And I think it's going to be an interesting anecdote in the methodology and kind of discussing what was done this year and how each of these surveys will be impacted, because I read a lot of old survey reports for my job, and some of them go back, quite a ways. And I always find it interesting when they have little anecdotes about what's going on in the world at the time that those are written, because it kind of gives you a frame of reference. So I think it'll be interesting that this survey will have that kind of conversation in it shortly about, we probably could have done more, but COVID slowed us down, and, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, so I think they would, I think that's just, that's where we're at. And I think you guys are doing an outstanding job, and I can't wait to see the final product. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, I wish I had the address of that one house. I thought I'd written it down, but I didn't. I apologize. But, that was going to be in our recommendation section, that, we're doing the best job that we can given the circumstances, and to possibly revisit, some of the archival documentation that is at Mid-Continent, for example. There's just no other way to get our hands on some of this material other than going straight to the library. So, I think we're in good shape though. And, I certainly appreciate all of you listening to this very limited presentation. We don't have a PowerPoint. And I'd be challenged to actually put that together for this kind of meeting. This is all new to me. You know, I'm used to Zoom, and then I don't even know, what are we on now? Go meeting or
Go to meeting.
go to meeting? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's worked out well. I mean, I'm on. I vanished there for a while and came back on.
Well, just so everyone's aware, part of our grant agreement stated that we needed to have 2 public meetings. And our original public meeting was held in person in City Hall. And then obviously we had quite a few delays as COVID closed things down for a while. We didn't have any meetings. So this was the first available meeting prior to finalizing the draft forms that we could hold and have an opportunity for the public to participate, or at least hear an update about where the survey was at and any kind of challenges that we were having. So I really appreciate both Sid and Allison taking the time to join us because it is great to have a survey done. We have not been able to hire someone to do a survey since 2000.
Wow.
And it's just unfortunate that COVID has really hit the city's budget as hard as it has, because we had intended to move forward with phase 2 through an additional grant. And we've unfortunately had to request that those funds not be given to the city at this time because we cannot make the match. So we'll do everything we can to continue moving forward with this project. Surveys are a vital part of our planning process, and we really intend to keep surveys going. There's so many resources, and you know, by the time we're hitting 2020, I mean, when you think of all the resources that come into play between 1920 and 1930 or 40 in independence, and that's a very big majority of our architecture that will be 100 years old and more than eligible for listing either locally or at the national level. So it's really important to get these documented so that we can both make sound planning decisions, but also just to make sure we're not losing resources through our demolition review process.
One thing I might add, and this speaks to the importance of being able to get our hands on archival information. We've noticed in this neighborhood, there's repetition of building types and national folk style, which is a type, and a certain amount of style and craftsman and craftsman architecture. And with, you know, one of the archival documents that, you know, has just been a Bible for me through the years is Western Contractor. And it's housed at the Missouri Valley Room at the Kansas City Public Library. And this particular professional periodical would give us an idea of, did she just leave? Oop, there you are.
Oh,
hello. They would give us a really good idea if there was a developer involved. I have a suspicion that there was, without getting a hold of newspapers, you know, from mid-continent, and also in you know, coupling that with information from Western Contractor, you know, I can assume it, but I can't prove it. So those are the kinds of things that have, in my mind, have really, you know, it's held up having us make any solid recommendations for instance, if there was a developer in the neighborhood and there were, you know, 4 blocks of houses that were all developed by this one person, I think that would be vital information to know. But, you know, we haven't been able to dig that deep. So
for those of you who are not familiar with this area, we have both the history of the amusement parks in this area, and then we also have the refinery that really shaped the development of this area. So historically speaking, the period of significance.
Call from
it's my brother. He's been in and out of the hospital. Hold on one second.
Call from.
Can I call you right back?
So
Wendy,
the
I
period of
couldn't-
significance for this area would both be influenced by the the fairgrounds in the area as well as the refinery. So that might be a connection there. If there was a specific builder, it could have been for one or both of those.
Mhm.
And that's why, being able to document this area is so important.
Yeah.
Wendy, I couldn't hear you. You said of course, amusement park. But what was the second part you said? The refinery?
The refinery. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What was the second one? I missed that too.
It was the refinery.
Okay.
And Sheffield Steel, and also Kansas City Bolt and Nut. I mean, there are all these industries, around that surrounded this area that could, may have influenced the way the area that was developed, i.e., were there workers that were there houses that, were developed and built for workers affiliated with these different industries. We just don't know. And I think newspapers, would definitely shed some light on that.
Is there a way to use census records to find that out?
I've never really used a census record. I mean, it's, it may be worth a try, but, as far as like developers go, I don't think that's going to give us any information about, did Willard Winter, who was very big in the area, did he develop, 5 blocks in the area, between 1908 and 1925? Census isn't going to give us that kind of information.
I just didn't know if the addresses on there would be able to help at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's probably challenging too that there aren't any city records either, because it's kind of that's no man lands between the two cities. So that's another challenge probably that you're facing with that as well. So it's a tough one.
It is.
Tough time. Yeah.
So are there any questions or comments from the commission?
Sydney, did you say what the time frame was when and I know there have been understandable delays, but when the architectural survey will be available for this commission and the public to review? Will it be on the city's website, or where will we find it?
Well, we're really, I think, on schedule considering, and everything will be completed by the end of August. August 31st is the deadline. So, that's really up to Wendy and, the City of Independence as to when they want to launch this information.
We're in the process of trying to get a system together where the forms can be uploaded. We have another survey, our North Main survey, that we're in the process of trying to get uploaded as well. So hopefully we'll be able to come up with a pretty smooth system. And once we're able to just upload it and enter just a little bit of metadata related to it, then we'll be able to get that all online and available. You can read digital copies at any time. I would be happy to share those with the commission or with the public, but having access to it online will take just a little while to be able to work with tech services to get that online. But that is the goal. And the more information we can share with the public, the better. So we highly intend to have all of our surveys available online as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'd like to see the digital copy, beforehand. I don't know if others share that view, but.
Yeah, I'll be happy to forward that when we get the forms and we get especially the context. Then I think you'll actually find that really interesting, and it'll help put this into perspective just a little bit more.
Did the survey take into account the fire that happened there on the north side of 24 Highway along that commercial strip within the last couple of months? Did your survey, that was near, I think it was Huttig in 24?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know anything about the fire, I don't know if that actually affected any of the buildings.
It gutted the one building that was there, but I don't know that it had a high level of integrity to begin with.
Right.
So it didn't really change, I think, any overall assessment about what would be eligible for listing there, Sam.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? If not, I want to thank Sid and Allison for joining us this evening. This is our regularly scheduled Heritage Commission meeting for July, and so getting an update as part of the meeting was kind of exciting. So we had something positive to talk about, and that we're moving forward with meeting one of our goals for our master plan. So we're pretty excited about that.
Well, thanks for listening, and we'll just keep plugging away.
Yep. Thanks for including us. Yeah, it was nice to see everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda, I think we've got just any comments from the public. And I don't know that we had any other than Sid and Allison, that we had any other members of the public. Maybe the Heritage Commission next. Any concerns or questions from the commissioners? No? Okay, well, I do want to provide an update about the Truman Depot, that we're still moving forward and getting ready to put the RFP out for that project. And I just saw the deadlines today. I think we're still on track for meeting our deadlines for both the fall and completion in late winter of 2021. So regardless of the fact that some of the budget's been a little questionable, we are still able to move forward, and we will not be losing that grant provided by MARC, Mid-America Regional Council. So that was really solid project. That property has been somewhat neglected, and in its location, it's really isolated. So it unfortunately just doesn't get the attention that it really should. It's part of our National Historic Landmark District, with its tie to Truman and just the age of the building. So it's a really important resource, and it's really nice to see the spotlight turned a little bit on one of those southern properties as part of our district. I have just a brief listing of Section 106 reviews that I've been
Oh, hey,
conducting.
Wendy. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, on that subject, Wendy, sorry. So you said the winter of this coming year, that is 2021, it might be completed. Is that the idea?
Well, I think our deadline for MARC, per our extension that we received, is going to require that we have the project, one of the deadlines at least, completed. So I don't know that they'll be able to get all of the trail put in place by then, but I think some of the work on the building should be completed by then.
Yeah.
And
yeah, what the benchmark was for completion under the grant.
Yeah, MARC is particularly concerned about showing progress, and for the longest time we were kind of stuck in a holding pattern. And so I think they are more than pleased to see that we're at least moving forward and making some good progress. We got all of our clearances through the state and through MoDOT. They're still wrapping up a few things with Union Pacific to make sure that they're okay with the work that's being proposed. But beyond that, I think they'll be able to move forward soon.
Yeah. Yeah, part of the reason I asked was because we wanted, at one point, way back when, wanted to coordinate the Truman Depot renovation with the Truman Library reopening, with the bridge over Highway 24 and Best Truman Parkway, reopening. And at those, it's going to be really hard to tie those things together at this point. But moving forward, that's the important thing.
Yeah, and maybe they'll just end up making it, there'll be a longer celebration. Maybe they'll tie it more into the bicentennial for the state. We still have some celebrations coming up, and good and positive things happening. And hopefully when we can kind of get through what we're going through now, we can just kind of, redirect on some happier times and some big celebrations that could be coming in the next year or two. So that's my hope.
Sure.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
At this time, because of COVID restrictions changing often, both with the county and with the city, I think we're probably going to be postponing our architectural walks for the fall. But I would like to promote some of the existing walking tours that we have in place, maybe just to get people out or go to buildings they haven't looked at before, or stopped and taken a walk and actually been able to learn a little bit about. So I'm going to try to work with our tech services or with our social media, with our PIO, to see if we can't get some of the existing surveys out to the public and maybe do some posts to get people out and about when the weather starts cooling off a little bit, and still be able to focus more on our historic architecture. does the commission have any concerns about that? Are you comfortable with that?
I am. I
it's
think
great.
it sounds exciting.
Okay, well, you know, we had gotten on a pretty good, consistent roll of doing these architectural surveys, and we were getting more and more people, and I really don't want to end that momentum. So I'm hoping if we can just at least get them excited about our historic architecture, and then start with our new themes in 2021, which hopefully by then all this will be behind us. Then I think that'll be good, and we can kind of carry on that bicentennial theme, so we can really kind of run with it in 2021 and just kind of go any direction we want. Women's history, African American history, Mormon history, Truman history. I think we can just kind of, you know, just embrace all the different aspects of Independence history that way. The only other thing that I have been working on quite a few 106 reviews. These are reviews that anytime we're using federal funding require an assessment to make sure we're not damaging or irreversibly changing historic resources. So in an assessment that I do, that I submit, we take a look at projects in particular with CDBG funds or with home funds. So some of these are rehabs of existing buildings. Some of them are just home improvement projects. And they include 1220 North Spring, 1224 West Beverly, 1612 South Harris, 2333 South Hall, and 2736 South Westport. So in the last month, I've submitted all of these to the SHPO, which is where Allison works, the State Historic Preservation Office, and I should be hearing back from them soon. And once they get that clearance, those projects will be able to move forward with utilizing the federal funding that the city distributes to various organizations and individuals to be able to do these projects. Are there any questions about the 106s? No? Otherwise, if we don't have any other discussion, I really appreciate you all embracing this new GoToMeeting format. I don't have any COAs on the horizon for August, with the exception of possibly a garage door. And I'll be sending you out some information about that soon, so you can kind of take a look at that and let me know what you think. But otherwise, I think we have concluded the meeting unless anyone else has any other comments.
Oh, Wendy, what's the status of our CLG certification this year? Everything's kind of up in the air. Normally we would make a trip to Jeff City in the luxurious government van, but that's not happening this year. So are we going to get a waiver on that this year, or, you know, what's the expectation?
Yeah, I think the state is well aware of the fact that they had to cancel their training. Any opportunity that we have via webinars or virtual training, I will make sure that I get out to the commission. But I think this year they more than understand that we've been limited with the amount of training that we can get. And so that'll just be part of the end of the year report that I submit to the state, and with an explanation that, you know, we intend to fully participate. Independence always has the highest number of participants for their commissioners. So I don't think the state is ever concerned that you're not engaged or concerned about advancing your training on preservation. So I don't anticipate having any negative comments about the lack of training this year.
Okay. And the last question I have for you, Wendy, it really isn't involved. It technically does involve the built environment in the sense of the Jackson statue located there on the west side of the courthouse. And a lot of questions recently about its provenance. Who owns it? You know, is it the City of Independence or Jackson County? Because of the debate, you know, relating to Jackson. Have you fielded any questions? I know we certainly have at Truman Library about that statue. Do you have any knowledge of whether that is... Harry Truman basically gave it to either the city or to the county, and we're not sure which one. Do you have any knowledge about that, or is that kind of outside your realm?
Yeah, I have not had any questions about ownership. I do know that when the courthouse went through its renovation, the county was responsible for determining relocation of all of the statues and monuments that were on the property. And that included the datum that's there for the point for the survey, the Truman statue, all the different monuments on the property. And so I would probably just say that it would be a county responsibility at this point. I don't know of any other contact in the time that I've been here. I don't know of any other contact we made because a lot of those statues were replaced or repurposed at the time that that property was renovated. So I don't know of any discussion or any city point of contact that was made when all of that was done probably a decade ago.
Oh, that's very useful. Okay, thank you. So you're talking about the renovation within the last decade.
Yes.
Were those statues moved for that purpose? I don't recall that. Were they? They were
because
temporarily.
The elevation changed. A lot of the concrete was removed that surrounded the building. And so when that occurred, they actually removed quite a few statues. Some I don't think were ever placed back on the property, and some were relocated or new bases were constructed. So the county should have records of all of those based on the contacts that were made when that renovation was done.
So that Jackson statue was temporarily put like in storage? I don't recall. And then it was put, back to where it is now.
Yeah, that was the engineering department with the county.
Okay,
the
great.
gentleman who actually oversaw that is no longer with the county, but the engineering department should have some record of that on file that they should be able to reference.
Okay, super. That's very helpful.
Yeah, ownership had to be determined for every single monument, and it was literally people have just given and organizations have donated monuments and different objects to the property over several decades.
Okay. Okay, super. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other than that, Chair Grotenhouse, I'll turn it over to you. Do we have anyone wishing to adjourn, to make a motion? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I just turned on the mic. I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we have an all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have an all in favor of 5 with Commissioner Richer abstaining. And otherwise, thank you all very much for coming. And we have a meeting coming in August. I will let you know ASAP.
Okay. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Nice
Thanks,
to see you.
everyone. You too.
Yeah.